My promotion turned into a nightmare, and it was all because of the one person I trusted the most. Hey, if you're into real, raw workplace drama where nothing is as it seems, make sure to hit that subscribe button. You won't want to miss how this all unfolds. My name's Ethan. I'm 34, and for the past 7 years, I've worked as a project manager at a mid-sized tech company. I'm not flashy, I don't schmooze, and I've never played office politics. I believed hard work and results were enough. But that belief was shattered the day I got promoted, and found out who my real enemies were. It all started when my manager, Rachel, announced she was stepping down. Everyone knew the position would open up, and honestly, I didn't think I had a shot. I wasn't the loudest voice in meetings, and I didn't hang around after hours for drinks with the execs. But I had something else: performance. My projects came in under budget, ahead of schedule, and my team respected me. Still, I was shocked when the VP pulled me aside and said I was getting the promotion. I was proud, nervous, hopeful. Then came the congratulations, and the fake smiles. The worst came from Jake, my best friend at work. We started on the same day. Shared lunch breaks. Weekend beers. He slapped my back, said all the right things. But something in his eyes told a different story. Within a week, weird things started happening. Missed emails. Misfiled documents. Project delays that made no sense. I thought I was going crazy. Until I realized someone was actively trying to make me fail. And all the evidence started pointing to Jake. I didn't want to believe it at first. Jake and I had been tight for years, we'd covered for each other, laughed about nightmare clients, even helped each other move apartments. But once I started paying attention, the signs were everywhere. He was copying me in emails I had no reason to be on. Small, petty mistakes suddenly looked intentional. He'd forget to pass along messages from clients. Then I caught him rolling his eyes during my presentations, right in front of the team. Still, I gave him the benefit of the doubt. Maybe he was stressed. Maybe it was in my head. Then one morning, I walked into the office and found our CTO, Claire, sitting at my desk. She looked serious. "We need to talk," she said, handing me a printed email. It was from my work account. Supposedly. It read, "I don't care what Claire says, this project is a mess and it's not my problem anymore. She can deal with it." My blood ran cold. I never wrote that. But there it was, my name, my email signature, sent at 1:14 a.m. I looked at Claire, stunned. "I didn't write this. I swear to you, I didn't." She didn't smile. "I believe you. But someone's trying to make it look like you did." That was the moment I knew, someone was sabotaging me. And now, it wasn't just office games. It was personal. It was war. And I had to find out who was behind it, fast. I didn't sleep that night. My mind kept circling the same question: who had access to my account? IT confirmed the email had been sent from inside the building, from a desktop logged in under my credentials. Which meant someone used my computer. Or spoofed it. There were only 3 people who sat close enough to even try that: my assistant, Mia, loyal to a fault; Darren, a junior analyst, quiet, introverted, barely spoke to anyone; and Jake. Jake, who had full access to my shared folders. Jake, who once jokingly asked me for my password when we were working late, just in case. Jake, who now avoided eye contact like I was contagious. But I needed more than a gut feeling. I needed proof. I started documenting everything. Screenshots. Email logs. Security badge entries. I even bought a cheap USB camera and hid it behind the fake plan on my desk, pointing directly at my monitor. 2 days later, I caught him. Monday, 7:42 p.m. Most people had gone home. I'd left early, but in reality, I waited down the hall with my phone recording the desktop feed remotely. And there he was, Jake, walking into my cubicle, checking over his shoulder, sitting down at my computer like he owned it. He plugged something into the USB port. Typed for about 5 minutes. Then left. My heart pounded as I watched it. My hands shook. He wasn't just trying to get me fired, he was trying to destroy everything I'd built. My reputation. My leadership. My future. I had my smoking gun. But I didn't realize Jake wasn't working alone. The video was damning. No way to talk around it. Jake was caught red-handed. I could have gone straight to HR, even to the VP. But something stopped me. Why was he doing this? Why risk his own job just to sabotage mine? Was it jealousy? Resentment? Or was there something bigger at play? I didn't act immediately. Instead, I played along, smiled in meetings, kept everything surface level. Meanwhile, I kept watching, listening, looking for cracks. They came faster than I expected. It started with a hallway conversation I wasn't supposed to overhear. Darren, the quiet analyst, was talking to Jake near the break room. I was walking past, and their voices dropped the second they saw me. But I caught just enough. "Jake, we're almost there, just stick to the plan." "Darren, I don't want to get caught in the middle of this, man." That phrase stuck with me. In the middle. That meant Jake wasn't acting alone. Darren was involved. Which meant this wasn't just personal. It was coordinated. The next day, I checked Darren's project access history. He'd been quietly poking around in folders unrelated to his role. Specifically, ones tied to client billing, budgets, forecasts. The kind of sensitive financials that could cost the company millions if leaked. Suddenly, it clicked. This wasn't about me. It was about control, over a project we'd just landed with a Fortune 500 client. The biggest contract in our department's history. And now I was standing in the way. Jake didn't just want my job. He wanted my power. And he was willing to burn the whole place down to get it. At this point, I had a choice: go public with what I had and hope leadership believed me. Or dig deeper and expose the full extent of whatever Jake and Darren were doing. I chose the second option. Because something told me, this ran deeper than office politics. This was theft. Fraud. Maybe even corporate espionage. But it meant I had to keep pretending I was clueless, while secretly working with someone I wasn't sure I could trust. Her name was Priya, a cybersecurity analyst 2 floors down. We'd worked together once on a data breach project, and I remembered she didn't play favorites. I found her in the basement level IT lab and told her everything. I even showed her the video of Jake at my computer. She didn't flinch. Instead, she leaned forward and said, "If you plugged in a USB, I can trace the payload, but if you want me to do this off the record, I need you to keep your mouth shut and give me 24 hours. I agreed. The next day, she called me down with a flash drive. What she found made my stomach drop. Jake had installed a keystroke logger on my machine. Every password, every email, every file I touched, he had access to it. But worse, he'd also planted a dummy report in the client budget folder. One that showed massive discrepancies. If anyone found it, it would look like I had falsified numbers. It was a trap. A setup. And according to Priya, he'd sent copies to 2 people outside the company. One of them was Rachel, my old manager. She wasn't retired. She'd gone to work for a competitor. And now it looked like she and Jake were trying to take me, and the entire company, down from the inside. It was all starting to make sense. Rachel had always been shrewd, but I never imagined she'd do something this extreme. Her sudden departure, Jake's change in behavior, Darren's nervousness, it all pointed to a coordinated effort to sabotage our company from within. They weren't just after my position. They were after proprietary client data, and they were going to frame me as the scapegoat. I knew I couldn't go to HR yet, not without triggering alarms. If Jake and Rachel caught wind that I was onto them, they'd wipe everything. So I needed leverage. Real, indisputable proof. Something that could tie them together, and keep me from getting dragged down with them. Priya offered to help again. She combed through the network logs and eventually found a match, an unauthorized login from Darren's computer to a secured financial directory, one that only I and 2 executives had access to. It had happened late at night. He thought no one would notice. Meanwhile, I took a more analog approach. I invited Jake to lunch, like old times. Pretended like I was stressed, overwhelmed, doubting myself. Told him I was thinking of stepping down. He smiled, just for a second. Too quickly. Too wide. "I mean," he said, "maybe it's for the best. You've been under a lot of pressure lately. You don't want to burn out." It was subtle. But he just confirmed everything I suspected. He wanted me gone, and he thought I was halfway there. After lunch, I returned to my desk and found a printed envelope left anonymously. Inside was a single page, a forged resignation letter with my name typed at the bottom. No signature. No explanation. Just waiting. For someone to submit it. It was a message. And a warning. I was running out of time. That resignation letter shook me. It was a silent threat, one final push to get me to walk away without a fight. Whoever left it on my desk wanted me to feel powerless. But it had the opposite effect. I was done playing defense. That night, I laid out every piece of evidence I had: the video of Jake, the system logs from Priya, Darren's unauthorized access records, and the forged email. It wasn't just enough to protect myself anymore. I needed to blow this thing wide open. Priya agreed to help me create a secure timeline, one that documented the entire chain of digital sabotage and data theft. But we still lacked one thing: a link between Jake and Rachel. Something undeniable. That's when I remembered an offhand comment Jake made 2 weeks ago, something about meeting an old mentor for drinks. I'd brushed it off, but now I was sure he was talking about Rachel. I dug into his calendar. Nothing there. But his Slack messages revealed a meeting location, a bar near Rachel's new office. It was risky. But I decided to go. I waited outside the bar in my car, parked across the street. At exactly 7:16 p.m., Jake walked in. 15 minutes later, Rachel followed. They didn't see me. But I saw them. And I got the photo: 2 smiling snakes, laughing over drinks, probably celebrating how close they were to getting me fired. That image was the missing puzzle piece. The next morning, I scheduled a private meeting with the VP of Operations. No email trail. Just a handwritten note. Confidential, urgent. Security breach involving staff. Bring Priya. Trust no one else. When he saw the evidence, he went pale. I'd never seen him look afraid before. He leaned forward, locked the door, and said, "You just uncovered something way bigger than you think." The VP, Robert Mitchell, was normally the picture of composure. Ex-military, ran operations like a machine, rarely showed emotion. But after reviewing everything Priya and I laid out, the tempered files, the spyware, the video of Jake, the bar photos, he sat silently for a long time. Then he said something that caught me completely off guard. "This isn't the first time." He opened a locked drawer and pulled out a thin, black folder labeled Internal, Eyes Only. Inside were printed complaints from 2 former employees, both middle managers, both who had left abruptly in the past year. Both had accused Jake of manipulating data and undermining leadership. But HR had buried the complaints. Both employees had accepted severance and NDA agreements. Nothing was ever investigated. Rachel had been head of operations at the time. And now, with Rachel working for a competitor, it all added up. They'd been doing this for a while, identifying high-performing departments, sabotaging them from the inside, then poaching the clients and employees for their new venture. It wasn't just corporate betrayal, it was strategic dismantling. Robert looked at me, then Priya. "You didn't just protect yourself. You may have saved the entire company." I thought I'd feel relief. Vindication. But all I felt was the weight of what came next. Robert asked for one more thing: keep quiet, just for 48 hours. He wanted to coordinate with legal, HR, and IT before making any moves. If we acted too soon, Jake might catch wind and disappear. Or worse, wipe every trace of evidence. So, I agreed. But I knew Jake. He was smart. And paranoid. He'd sense the shift. And if he found out the walls were closing in, he might take everything down with him, including me. Those 48 hours felt like walking on broken glass. I showed up every day like nothing had changed, smiled through meetings, nodded at Jake's passive-aggressive comments, pretended I didn't know he'd tried to destroy my entire career. Meanwhile, Robert assembled a task force in secret, legal, cybersecurity, and an external audit firm brought in under the pretense of quarterly compliance. Priya was quietly feeding them everything, including a full digital fingerprint of the stolen data Jake and Rachel had transferred to their off-site servers. The final trap? We needed Jake to act. To confirm that he and Rachel were still communicating, and that the stolen files were active. So, I gave him bait. I crafted a fake report, a new client strategy pitch filled with sensitive intel, but entirely fictional. We watermarked every page with invisible tracking codes. I accidentally left it open on my screen while I stepped away for coffee. Within 3 hours, the file was opened from an external IP tied to Rachel's new firm. Got him. That was the signal Robert had been waiting for. He called an emergency board meeting. Jake was to be confronted, put on administrative leave, and escorted out by security. Only, that didn't happen. Because Jake didn't show up that morning. He didn't call. Didn't text. His badge was used to enter the building at 6:12 a.m. But security footage showed nothing. He was never seen walking through the lobby. His workstation had been wiped clean, files deleted, browser history scrubbed. He was gone. But that wasn't even the worst part. I went back to my desk, and taped under my keyboard was a note, handwritten, rushed. "You're not as smart as you think. I wasn't alone. Check your team." And that's when it hit me like a punch to the gut. Someone else had been helping him, not from the outside. From my own team. Someone I trusted. Someone still sitting just a few desks away. I read that note over and over, hands shaking. Check your team. Jake had an inside accomplice. Someone I worked with daily. Someone I trusted to have my back while I was busy fighting off the attack from the front. I looked around the office. Familiar faces, neutral expressions. Everyone typing, sipping coffee, laughing at Slack jokes. But now, every smile felt like a threat. Every glance a loaded weapon. I mentally ran through my team. Mia? No way. She'd been my assistant for 3 years, loyal, dependable, practically family. Darren? Already a confirmed part of the plot. But Jake wouldn't have left a warning about him. That wasn't news. Then there was Alexis, our operations coordinator. Bright, ambitious, always one step ahead. I'd mentored her since she joined. Gave her a shot when no one else would. She was the only person who had access to both client decks and internal admin tools, the perfect position to relay just enough information without setting off alarms. I didn't want it to be her. But when I walked past her desk, I noticed something strange. Her phone screen was lit, a message visible from the lock screen. I didn't mean to snoop, but the name at the top froze me mid-step. R. Martinez. Rachel. I kept walking. Calm. Measured. Back at my desk, I pinged Priya. Me, I need to know if Alexis accessed the bait file. Quietly. 10 minutes later, she messaged back. Yes. Downloaded at 6:05 a.m. from her laptop. That was before Jake's badge was used. Before he vanished. And her machine? It had no record of opening the file afterward. Which meant she had downloaded it for him. Alexis. The one I'd pulled into my circle. The one I'd fought for when others wanted to pass her over. She hadn't just betrayed me, she'd been feeding Jake everything. And now, she was sitting 15 feet away, typing away like nothing had happened. My jaw tightened. I wasn't done yet. If she was part of this, she was going down with him. I decided to keep Alexis close, for now. Confronting her without absolute proof could backfire, especially if she had allies I didn't know about. So I arranged a one-on-one meeting under the guise of discussing upcoming projects. The conference room was small, quiet, perfect for what I needed. When she arrived, her smile was as sharp as ever. But beneath it, I detected a flicker of something else, nerves. She knew. I started calmly. Alexis, I want to talk about the bait report I left on my desk. The one you accessed early this morning. Her eyes flicked toward the door, just for a second. Then she said, yeah, I downloaded it. So what? So what? I repeated. Why? And why send a warning that Jake wasn't alone? She leaned back, smirking. You're smarter than I thought, Ethan. But not smart enough. My heart pounded, but I stayed steady. You knew what Jake was doing. You helped him. That fake resignation letter, the sabotaged emails, the planted reports, you were in on all of it. She shrugged, voice low and bitter. I was tired of playing second fiddle. Always the good soldier. Meanwhile, Jake and Rachel gave me a chance to climb. To be someone. Her words stung, but I saw something else, fear, desperation. She wasn't just a villain. She was a victim of ambition twisted into something dark. I reached into my bag and pulled out my phone. I've already sent everything to Robert and legal. You're done, Alexis. She stood up suddenly, knocking her chair back. You think you're the hero? You're just another pawn. She stormed out before I could say another word. Later that day, HR called me into a meeting. Alexis had resigned. But the damage she and Jake caused, that was just beginning to unravel. Alexis's resignation hit the office like a bombshell. Gossip spread like wildfire, and everyone suddenly looked at me differently, some with suspicion, others with relief. But what surprised me most was how silent Jake's absence made the place feel. Like the air itself had been sucked out. Robert called me into his office again, this time with a grim expression. The board is pushing for a full audit. They want all compromised contracts reviewed. All client relationships assessed. This could take months. And it's going to cost us. I nodded. I understood. The company's reputation was on the line. The clients trusted us, but how could they now? Then Robert said something else, something I didn't expect. You'll be asked to step back from the promotion for a while. Until this settles. My heart sank. After everything I'd been through, the sabotage, the betrayal, the fight to expose the truth, I was being put on hold. Treated like a liability. It's a precaution, he added quickly, not a punishment. But it felt like one. I tried to keep my head high, but inside, I was torn apart. I'd fought for years, believed in doing the right thing, only to be sidelined when the dust settled. And as I walked back to my desk, I realized something: this war wasn't over. It wasn't just about promotions or projects anymore. It was about surviving in a place where loyalty was a currency no one trusted. And where the people closest to you could be your worst enemies. Being sidelined felt like a punch to the gut. Suddenly, I was watching from the sidelines as others moved forward, some who hadn't earned it, some who played the game better than I ever wanted to. I kept my head down, focused on the work I could still do, but the whispers followed me everywhere. Too risky. In the middle of the mess. Maybe he's not the leader we thought. Some days I questioned myself. Was I naive? Did I miss the signs? Was my own honesty a weakness in a cutthroat world? But then something unexpected happened. A few team members started coming to me, quietly, off the record. They wanted to talk about what happened. About the toxic environment, the lies, the fear they'd felt but hadn't spoken up about. One by one, they shared stories, about Jake's manipulations, Alexis's underhanded moves, and how many had felt powerless to stop it. That was the turning point. I realized I wasn't alone. The real strength wasn't in winning promotions or climbing ladders. It was in building a team that could trust each other again. Even if that meant starting from scratch. So I began organizing informal meetings, creating safe spaces for people to speak up without fear. I worked with HR to push for transparency, accountability, and a reset of how leadership was chosen. It wasn't easy. There were setbacks. Threats of lawsuits. Quiet resistance from some corners. But slowly, the office began to breathe again. And for the first time in months, I felt like I might actually survive this. Months passed, and the company started healing. The audit cleared most of the damage, though a few contracts had to be renegotiated. Jake and Alexis became cautionary tales whispered about in break rooms and onboarding sessions. But more importantly, something changed inside our team. Those quiet meetings I started? They turned into a movement. People who once stayed silent began speaking up. We created new channels for feedback, peer support groups, and clearer paths for reporting issues. Even Robert stepped up, pushing leadership to prioritize culture alongside profits. His support made a difference. It showed me that change could come from the top down, if people were willing to listen. And then, surprisingly, Rachel's competitor made a critical misstep, leaking sensitive info that led to an investigation. Our company gained new clients who wanted to work with an organization that could weather storms and still come out stronger. My role slowly shifted from sidelined manager to trusted advisor. The promotion I'd lost was never officially given to anyone else, it stayed vacant as the company restructured. One afternoon, I got a message from Priya. Your patience and courage saved a lot more than your job. It was the kind of message I needed to hear, a reminder that even when the worst happens, resilience and integrity can turn the tide. I still have scars from this battle. But now, I'm ready for whatever comes next. Looking back, I never imagined my promotion would lead to this kind of chaos, betrayal, sabotage, and secrets hiding behind familiar faces. But life doesn't always play out how we expect. What I learned through all of this is that success isn't just about hitting targets or climbing the ladder. It's about the people you trust, the values you hold on to when everything is shaking, and the courage to stand up even when it feels like you're alone. Workplaces can be toxic. People can be cruel. But sometimes, the darkest moments reveal who we really are, and who we can become. If there's one thing I want anyone watching this to take away, it's this: don't ignore your instincts. Pay attention to the small signs. Protect your work and yourself. But above all, build a network of trust. Because when betrayal comes, and it might, that network will be your lifeline. Thank you for listening to my story. If you want more real, raw workplace dramas, hit subscribe and stay tuned. There's always more to uncover. Because in the end, the real battles aren't just about jobs. They're about integrity, resilience, and fighting to keep your place in a world that sometimes feels like it's designed to knock you down. Stay strong.